Up to this point, we've been showing you how to lay items out specific to the container. So you'll create a container and it will affect the children individually. So one of the most important things about flexbox to understand is that it's a direct parent-child relationship. And so if you apply flex to a container, it only affects the direct children and not grandchildren or great-grandchildren within. Obviously, if there's a grandchild inside of this item inside there, it will move with it, but you can't expect it to apply to lower levels. So again, it's a direct parent-child relationship. So in this example here, you can see we have this container in purple and the children inside. And this container is what we've been applying these flex items to. So we turned our container to be flex, right? We applied a direction right here to our flex in row, column, and so forth. We did a flex wrap to tell it to wrap around or not to wrap. We did a flex flow, which is shorthand. We moved all those items inside to the left or right, and we moved them up and down using the line items. So those are some really good ways to think about it. Now, when we're talking children, there's things we can apply directly to the children now, okay? And so I wanted to talk about some of those and what those look like. The first one is we want to use something called a line self. And a line self is not applied to the container. So you won't apply it to, the overarching div tag that's around everything. And you want to apply it to an individual item. So in this case, we'd apply this align self to this div inside of the container. And we could change it to stretch or to center, to start and end. And you can see how it's affecting specifically that one item and not the others. Next, we want to look at something called flex grow. And flex grow allows an item to become larger in relation to the others. And so by default, with flex grow, everything comes in at 0. And you can go through and let's do this here. So I'm going to flip this one to 2. So this is using a flex grow of 2. And what you can see here is you've got to almost count it up as in we've got 2 units here, 3 and 4 now. And because this is 2, think of it like 2 of 4, so it takes 50% of the screen, right? So if I flip that to 3, think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so this is 3/5 of it. And if I flip it to 1, 1, 2, 3, it becomes 1/3 of the other items. And so it proportionally will grow to different sizes based on how big it is to others. There's also another one called flex shrink, which is very similar. And flex shrink will take things and say, okay, I want it to be shrunken proportionally by 2 and 1. So it kind of does the inverse of flex grow, but in a shrinking kind of way. I don't use this one as often as I use grow, but it is something you can use. Now, flex basis is really interesting because it sets the initial size of an object. So if you don't specify, it will kind of wrap and flex to the size it needs to. So let's go here. By default, it's on auto, and you can see how that would go bigger and smaller and flex different sizes just fine. If I go to 0, what it does is it tries to just maintain the content the best it can, and I can shrink this down, and you can see how it makes itself 0. And this is probably the best case use of it, is when I put 200 pixels, it basically says this is the initial size of a flex item. So that's kind of the smallest it's going to be seen. And so when I shrink it down, the others get smaller, but that first one does not. And so it just kind of helps set the initial size of something that you want it to go to. Now, with that, kind of with flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis, we can use the tag just flex now, and this is shorthand, okay? And the first value is for flex grow, and if you put two values, the first one will be flex grow, and then this will be flex basis. And then 3 values would be flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. And you don't really use 3 a lot. You'll probably use 2 or just use 1. So let's first off go to 1. And you can see, it's fine. It becomes 1/3 just like flexgrow did. And if we put it to 2, you can see how that would be 2/4 because of the 4 units across the screen. And if we put it back to 1, it's going to be 1 across. However, in this case, it's never going to get smaller than 30 pixels. So let's say we bump that up to 300 pixels. You can see how that's now become larger, and so forth. So let's maybe go to 100 pixels, and then we'll say that this is going to become 2/3. Now you can see when I would resize it, it's never going to get smaller than 100 pixels, but it's going to try to maintain itself at 2, like right here, it's 2/4 of the screen roughly, but it's always going to make sure that it never gets smaller than 100 pixels. So that's kind of how that reads. The last thing on here is something called order. And this is just like z-index that we've learned in previous videos when we have positioning types and they stack. With order, everything comes in at 0, okay? And when I take an individual object and I apply an order 3 to it, it then becomes, it changes its order in the stacking method. And so if I was to make that 1, you can see down here, this has an order 1 applied to it, order 2, and order 3. And then this one is a -1. So if I take this number and I say 0, it's going to be at the start, right? And if I take 1 there, 2 here, it kind of goes up. 3 is going to go up there, and 4 is going to go up at the top and be on top of everything. If I have one that's a -1, it's going to make sure it's under all of them. And again, if I go higher than the top order, it's going to be on top. So again, it's a way you can apply an order to every single item on your page, and you could order them around. So a good use case for this might be you have a gallery and a bunch of images, and the HTML has them come in a certain way. Well, you can apply an order to them and have them rearrange if you want. Maybe you have it where it changes into a mobile environment and they move around a little bit or something. And so again, it's just kind of a way to reorder things. So again, you can see here where we have properties for the parent, okay? We apply how we want to move, what direction do we want these items to come in? How are they going to wrap around? How are they going to, align to the left or to the right and things like that, right? But we also now have items that can be applied directly to each individual item. So we had that example of order, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, -1, 1, 2, 5, so it's counting up. We have flex grow, made it, 2/5 of the screen here, or 2/4. Flex shrink, flex basis, flex, and there's other things out there that you can use with align self where you can move a certain one down or center it. But these are ones that are, again, specifically applied to the items themselves.